Theo, you've made a great career for yourself after your hockey career ended, doing gigs like this, speaking gigs. Do you enjoy them?
I absolutely love it. I think that, anytime you're able to take something tragic and turn it into something positive and if you would have told me this, when I was 20 years old carrying the Stanley Cup around the Montreal Forum, this is the kind of work I'd be doing, I would have told you you're crazy. But, I wrote that book in 2009 and, it changed my life and so I get to work now with all these amazing groups that are, on the front lines working with youth that had a similar youth, such as mine. And I was very lucky as a kid because I grew up in a small town and, that small town raised me and made sure that I was fed and watered and all of that. So I was very lucky. So, I know the importance of relationship and I think it's great that the police are, taking this kind of leadership and giving these kids who might not have an opportunity to get a sort of a head start in life and maybe give them a different perspective of what they're experiencing on a daily basis.
You're a Canadian, it's safe to say, as a young kid growing up, that Stanley Cup was your big goal in life, maybe the Olympic gold, maybe the World Cup juniors, all of those big successes. But now at this stage in your life, what's more important to you? Is it all of those big things that you won, or is it the impact that you have on people today?
Well, I would trade all those things for, the opportunity to help somebody, get to where they need to go in life. And, it was amazing that, actually the very first book signing I did in Toronto, this guy came up to the table and he was very, very disheveled. And he almost, if I had to guess, I would have said he was homeless. And he had my book and I was like, this is just really strange. But he came up to the table and he put the book in and he looked me in the eye and he said, "Me too." And that was it. That changed it for me because I was looking for purpose in my life and I had no idea, what the rest of my life looked like after hockey. And it was that guy that showed up at the table that really changed my life and like I said, gave me purpose. And, what happened after that is I got run over by people and, whether it was in Halifax, Nova Scotia or Langley, BC, there was people coming up to the table and sharing their stories, with me and it was overwhelming at the beginning, but now I realize, the biggest epidemic on the planet is trauma, mental health, and addiction, and they all go together. And the big goal and is I want to end mental health, and so the more people that I'm around and the more people who share with me, it gives me a better understanding of where we need to go and what we need to do for services and types of therapy, that you need to get better.
Going back to when you were sitting down and writing Playing with Fire, it must have been a daunting task ahead of you when you decided that you were going to reveal your story, the story of the sexual abuse and how it led to your alcohol addiction and all of these things that were happening in your life. How did you turn that corner and stay with that and say to yourself, despite what everyone says about what a man's supposed to be, what a hockey player is supposed to be, what a tough guy's supposed to be, how do I get this on paper and bring it out to the public?
Well, the intention when I sat down to write the book, I was only going to talk about my hockey career. And, early in the process of writing the book, and I wrote the book with Kirsty McClellan-Day, right away there was a trust factor. And then she made me feel safe. And once that, we had that safe space, it all just came out. But, I can tell you 4 days before I came to Toronto to launch the book, I was nervous and scared and I didn't know what to expect, but the feedback that I got was incredible. It was actually the opposite of what I was thinking. People came up to me and said, "Man, you have courage, and man, you have strength." And, that's all I needed. And I think, as a society. We need more of that, you know? And I always say, if you can say that to me, then why can't you say that to your neighbor, you know? And because it's an important piece when somebody, you know, finally finds enough courage and strength to, you know, confide in somebody that, you know, they need to have a positive experience. And so, you know, the more, and we can all listen, right? We all have 2 ears, and what's really cool is I don't ever have to say anything, you know? I just hold the space, let them tell their story, and you can see almost immediately a change happens, you know, physically and emotionally with them that is pretty cool.
I think it's safe to say that people like you coming out with your story, being so honest about it, and coming out to events like the Chiefs Gala and talking about it, I think it's safe to say that that was a big turning point for people's mental health, for people being able to step up and talk about these issues.
Well, you know, I think it's the first step in the process is putting a voice to your pain and suffering, and you know, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done after that. And you know, I've been very fortunate because I've run into some really amazing people who have helped me, you know, sort of unpack my trauma history, sort of reframe it and rewire it, and go on to, you know, have an amazing life. And you know, a lot of people don't realize that the most important relationship they have in their life is the one with themselves. And I ran away from that relationship for many, many years. And it wasn't until I started to have a relationship with myself that, you know, all of my other relationships changed. And so, yeah, like I said, it's been absolutely incredible. And, you know, I've been doing this almost now for 10 years. And I would say that I'm more busy this year than I was in year one, which to me is a positive thing, which means that people are more willing now to talk about trauma, mental health, and addiction at any point in time.
You do feel that we've made some progress on that factor?
Absolutely. We've made progress, but we got a long ways to go. You know, we have the highest amount of awareness that we've ever had in, you know, history. But on the other side of the coin, we still have the highest suicide rates that we've ever seen on this planet. So the big question is, why isn't this awareness being turned into action and getting people well? And so, you know, that's sort of the riddle that needs to be answered. And you know, like I said, I'm fortunate enough because I'm working in the field 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that, you know, it's become more and more clear to me that I believe it's community, you know, because, you know, I have a foundation in Calgary, and we run 2 programs. One's a therapy grant program, but the other program is twice a month. We get together and we invite anybody who wants to talk about trauma, mental health, and addiction. We create a safe place through vulnerability. And once you have the safety, that's when the magic of healing happens. And it's amazing that we have actually saved 5 people from killing themselves through this program. And you know how much that program cost us? Nothing, because the venues donated to us. And you know, it's amazing once you get people to open up, how quickly they can turn their lives around.
Was it heartbreaking for you to hear about the St. Mike's scandal? When you think of all the progress that we've made, and then something like this comes up and hits the news, and it's, again, linked to hockey, it's linked to sports, that must be heartbreaking for someone in your position.
Well, no, I think it's a sign from the universe each and every time that, hey, this is happening every second of every minute of every hour of every day. Some kid's getting, you know, molested somewhere on the planet. And, you know, when you think that human trafficking is $1 billion industry nowadays, what does that say to you, you know? So, and when I say we have a long ways to go, like, these are the kind of issues that we need to, you know, get ahead of and stop, because, you know, it's ridiculous that, you know, it's almost 2020 and we're still seeing this stuff happen. But, you know, it goes back to the significance of trauma, and trauma that's left not dealt with. This is what happens, you know, and so, you know, where my heart goes when I hear those stories is I always go to, you know, I hope the people that have been harmed are getting the help that they need, you know, right now.
Can I ask you about your tormentor, your abuser, Graham James? And is there ever space for him to be forgiven for what he did to you, what he did to others?
For sure. So I've been working in the prison system now for the last 5 years, and they have taught me two incredible things that I didn't have. And I had no idea why I wanted to go work in the prison system, and sure enough, I know now why. So the first thing they taught me was compassion, and then the second thing they taught me was forgiveness. And it's not necessarily forgiving my abuser, it's forgiving, you know, it's about forgiving myself. And I'm actually writing my third book right now, all about the process of forgiveness, because I think those of us who've been traumatized, we have to get to that point in our life, because to me, forgiveness is total freedom. I don't have to think about that person anymore. You know, when you say his name, I don't flinch or, you know, don't go to any thoughts. So, and what's really cool is I'm going through restorative justice right now with my abuser, and so, you know, I think that's what the really cool part about all of this is that, you know, I never would have thought I would be able to get to this point in my own personal recovery, but, you know, I see it now as a huge piece to the puzzle that we all need to get to at some point is the, you know, forgiveness.
Theo, as if all of that wasn't enough, you've suffered from Crohn's disease, and you've started a foundation. You've raised $1 million for Crohn's disease. You're a shining example again, and I'm not trying to, you know, put you up on that pedestal, but you're here. You know, you came out about your abuse, but you've also shown that through it all, not just the abuse, but through the Crohn's disease, that someone can get through just about anything that's thrown at them to hold them back.
Absolutely. Well, any stomach ailment, whether it's colitis or Crohn's or irritable bowel syndrome, is all a symptom of experiencing trauma as a child, right? Because, you know, your whole epicenter is the gut, and so, you know, I live a very stress-free life. I live a drama-free life, and I eat the right foods and take the right supplements and try to exercise as much as I can. And by doing that, you know, those symptoms have gone away. I'm not saying that I'm cured by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, those things are all factors. And you know, the way I look at it was when I was, you know, because I experienced trauma as a child and then as an adolescent, and my trauma had to go somewhere in my body, and so, you know, it went to my gut, and so, you know, that's how it showed up, but you know what, I always just I try to live in today as much as I can. I don't really think about yesterday, I don't think about tomorrow, and I try to, you know, be as present as I can, because, you know, of the work that I do, the people that I interact with, I have to be present and I have to be attuned, you know, all the time. But it's a great space, you know, to live in, and because of that, you know, my stress levels compared to when I was playing in the NHL, when it was 2-2 and the coach was looking down the bench, he was looking right at me, and, you know, that's a lot of pressure, and, you know, the money and all that. So yeah, it's. I feel very grateful and thankful that I've been able to overcome a lot of things, and then take that and help other people through my own experience of healing, you know, get everybody on a path of healing themselves.
You still look pretty fit. Do you ever lace them up playing some charity games?
You know what? I've been getting into playing a little bit more lately, but I play once a year at Mario Lemieux's fantasy camp in Pittsburgh. Nice. Because him and I sat beside each other at the Olympics in '02 when we won the Olympics, and so we've become really good friends, and he has an amazing charity in Pittsburgh, and he's done a lot of amazing work through the Mario Lemieux Foundation, and you know, he's just a guy that everybody can look up to. He's very humble, very graceful guy, and and we get together for 5 days and play hockey and have fun and tell stories, and you know, it's a fun experience.
You talked about having done this now for 10 years. What's the next 10 years look like for Theo Fleury?
Just more of this. You know, I think, like I said, you know, the big goal and the 40,000 foot goal here is to end, you know, pain and suffering in the world, because, you know, I see it every day, and so if I can be a catalyst or somebody, and you know what the funny thing was, I knew nothing about any of this when I started, and so, you know, when I talk about these great people that I've been able to run into, I've run into pretty much all the experts in the field of trauma, mental health, and addiction, and they've taught me so much about, you know, what we need to do and how we need to overcome this. And so, you know, I just think I need more research and run into more people and help more people, you know, get on a path of healing and self-discovery.